Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Fumbling Gurus. I'm your host, G-Man, and with me are my colleagues, Finn Stational, aka Finn, and we got
What up?
the bearded one, Sick Stomach.
What up?
Hey, welcome everyone.
All right, now we got the ball rolling here. It's time to talk about week 2. How crazy that was. I think that there's no better place to start than how Aaron Rodgers did.
Time out. Apparently there's an echo.
Who's echoing?
I guess it's better. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, there's probably no better place to start than Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay Packers versus Jared Goff and the Lions. 4 touchdowns and 255 yards. Definitely better than how he looked in week 1. I know that he passed it to Aaron Jones for 3 touchdowns, and he had 60 plus yards. And his father had actually died, and to honor his father, I think Aaron Rodgers kind of helped him out and gave him a good game. So I was wondering if you guys had anything to say about Aaron Rodgers. Let's start with Finn.
The Green Bay Packers definitely kind of got their groove back. Just got the groove back, period. I know that it was Monday night game. Peyton Manning, or Sunday night game, whatever, is the Peyton Manning broadcast thing. And Pat McAfee asked him, about kind of what do you think happened, basically what happened. And Manning mentioned that all of that off-field drama, the off-season drama, the, should he have control or not control, and everything that went on this off-season, that he thinks it still loomed, he as in Peyton Manning, still thinks it loomed over Aaron Rodgers in week 1. And they really had their wake-up call, and they came out ready to play. Aaron Jones, his running the football, he did all right. He was definitely effective in the passing game. And talking about the father passing was kind of sad. Was he was wearing a necklace, and I believe it had his father's ashes in it. And somehow during the game, it fell off, got ripped off, and I believe he actually lost it. I don't know if it was found, but still, what a way to remember his father, and what a great game for the Packers to beat up on the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Sick, do you have anything to add?
I'll just say I think a little understated there with Aaron Jones and his decisiveness in the offense there. I think he had 3 receiving touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown for the day. I mean, he killed it. I think I was surprised Finn didn't bring up. They were playing the Lions. That's the one that Finn feels, isn't going to do much this year. So, I think it was a good game for them to get back in the groove. I think it had a lot of meaning behind it as well. So, I think Aaron Jones carried them for sure. But overall, it's good to see that they're back, because they're always a fun team to watch when they are playing well. And so it's just good to see that, maybe they brushed off some of what happened in week 1.
I would like to say real quick, the Detroit Lions are a bad team. I've said this. I'm consistent with that.
Yeah.
But in the NFL, it is still hard to win, no matter how bad of a team, especially in a dominant performance like they did. So even though it was a bad Detroit team, you still have to give them a lot of credit. They came out firing. Like Aaron Rodgers, he only had 5 incompletions on the day. That's anytime you do anything like that, that's impressive work. And yeah, Aaron Jones, monster in the passing game for sure.
And at halftime, Detroit was winning, if I remember correctly. So
I think you were right. I think they were winning. I didn't even remember that.
And then that second half is when Packers were really Detroit didn't score again in the second half. It was all Packers from there on. So that was a transition for me. I feel like for the Packers is from that first to second half. That's when they were their old selves again.
Yeah, I can't agree more. that's definitely a game that was worthy of watching last week. Um, a game that probably on paper seemed like it was good to watch last week was Saints versus Panthers. Um, Panthers, they did pretty good with Sam Darnold, 300 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. But Saints missed 7 coaches in that game, so it didn't really help them out there. I was wondering if sick. You got anything to add on that?
I'd say the biggest standout for me was just some of the. I mean, I'd probably pick the running backs because I was looking at some of the stats. They had 48 rushing yards. The Saints did, and as you know, with Alvin Kamara and some of the other backs, you definitely expect them to have some running game there. Um, Alvin Kamara had 8 carries for 5 yards. I mean, what are you gonna? You're not gonna win football games doing that. Um, so I mean, maybe you can attribute that to the coaches, the fact that they don't have play callers, they're not together on the sidelines potentially. But I mean, come on, you got to you got to play a little bit better than that. So I'd say that's probably my main takeaway is just how not necessarily how the Panthers won and how they looked good, but the fact that the Saints looked worse than they should have.
Yeah, definitely. Saints didn't even score till the fourth quarter. So, Finn, you got anything to add on that?
Jameis Winston, or really his should be better known as Jameis Interception, son, INT son, whatever. Terrible pun. We're just running with it. That guy, I keep waiting for him to break out of this mold of what he was in Tampa. And being under Drew Brees, being with Sean Payton, being with the Saints, I thought he had the opportunity and the ability to kind of reach his potential as the number one overall pick back when he was drafted. Week one, he threw 5 touchdown passes, but only had like 19 attempts. And you're not going to have that type of numbers, that type of efficiency ever. Uh, but I wanted to see him continue and carry it on. He made one of the most Jameis Winston plays I've seen in the end zone, rolling around, fires the ball right to a defender. He does not know when to not take that chance, and it shows. The Saints missing 7 coaches, it hurts, it impacts. There's no question about it. But the players got to be responsible for themselves. The Saints are a team that are a bit on the decline. They're in kind of a retooling period. And so I don't necessarily expect them to be that bad, but I don't expect them to be as good as they were in week one. The Panthers, and I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, they are a surprising team. I did not expect them to be very good. And yet here we are. They beat up on the Saints. They to move to 2-0, one of the few teams that won both of their matchups week one, week two. And they continue to win with great defense. McCaffrey, for now, and then Sam Darnold playing good enough. I mean, he's not lighting the league on fire, but they've got some good offensive weapons with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, and it really shows that they're a much improved team where they were from last year with Teddy Bridgewater and where they are now.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Sam Darnold, he looks way better on the Panthers than he did the Jets, so that's for sure. Um, Another game that was highlighted in week two is the Ravens and the Chiefs. That was a pretty good game. Lamar Jackson, I felt like he was the team, like he was the entire team. It felt like, but somehow, some way, he got it done versus the Chiefs, and that was impressive. With the amount of players they have out, that's not an easy feat. So, um, yeah. Do you have anything to add on that? Say.
Yeah, I'd say with uh, with Lamar Jackson, there were a couple plays where it was almost like to me he was trying to show Patrick Mahomes like, hey, I can do this too. Because there are a couple jump passes, a couple things that I know Lamar's been known for things like that in the past, but to see him do it against Mahomes, who's kind of like the poster boy for those types of plays, was kind of fun to me to watch him do that. I'd say another standout was Marquise Brown for me. I know like he's been one of those players that should be an elite player and has been in the past, and maybe a little spotty, but he came back this game. He had a huge pass, I believe. I believe it was the third quarter to either tie or get them within reach. That was a huge play for them. It was a 30 or 40-yard touchdown. And that was one of those plays that kind of turned the game. So it was nice to see him back and doing what he does best. Um, but yeah, I'd have to agree. Lamar Jackson definitely carried him from his rushing ability to some of the passes he made that he probably shouldn't have, all across the board.
Yeah, definitely. Finn, do you have anything to add on that guy right there?
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is maybe the best athlete to step on that football field with all the athletes that are on that field. I mean, he is such a playmaker from the quarterback position. He can make throws with his arm, he can make plays with his legs. The guy does it all. And they have built a system to rely heavily on his legs in the running game. And to go up to the Chiefs, you have to be able to do both. They show that they can do both. A lot of the talk is on this Ravens team, and I fully understand and get it. They won that game, and that is an impressive victory. No matter, again, no matter who you face, a win is hard to get in the NFL. But against Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City Chiefs offense, it's even better of a win. And Patrick Mahomes played incredible. When the Ravens scored with just a few minutes left on the clock, I think it was 3 minutes, and they gave the ball back to our minute and a half, whatever it was, it doesn't even matter. Mahomes got the ball and he went right down the field and easily got themselves in field goal range to win the game. And their doom was the fact that they didn't, Andy Reid and that staff didn't just say Mahomes scored the touchdown and win me the game. They went to bleed the clock, and unfortunately, the second year running back coughs it up. It was a great play by the defensive end by the Ravens, the rookie Owe, I think his name is. What a credible play to knock it out, get the recovery. But one of the more impressive things in that game was the very last play of the game. Fourth down, they're at about the 50-yard line, game on the line. If you turn this ball over, the Chiefs are going to win the game. I mean, you know it. And Harbaugh goes to Lamar Jackson and says, "Hey, do you want to go for it?" And he doesn't even hesitate. Lamar Jackson, the playmaker he is, says, "Yes, put the ball in my hands." Sure enough, they get the first down. They win the game. That took a lot of guts. It took, ridiculous amount of respect for your quarterback and your team to be able to do that. And it also just shows the amount of respect that they have for that Kansas City offense.
Yeah, for sure. Dang. That you made a good point about Mahomes. He was really phenomenal in that game too, and he was overshadowed by how well Lamar Jackson did in that game.
You have to remember these two guys were MVP candidates a few years ago, and
Hmm.
Lamar Jackson got the first MVP. Mahomes got the second MVP. So these are the top tier. I mean, when you talk quarterbacks in the NFL right now, Lamar Jackson and Mahomes have got to be, in that conversation every single time. I mean, they are just so great at the position and the level that they're playing.
Yeah, I got two follow ups there. So one, what other team like? I think Harbaugh is unique to me. I don't think many coaches would have given their quarterback, besides the greatest player to ever wear number 12. I feel like a lot of coaches wouldn't have given that quarterback that choice. How do you guys feel? And what other teams do you feel may have allowed their team to win that rather than put it on the defense?
As you said, I think Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are a team. Actually, no, Aaron Rodgers, they would have punted the ball away. That's a really good question, and that just shows the level of trust that he has in Jackson. The only other guy that I would think the team that might do it would be the Browns with a great running game, and they wouldn't necessarily
Hmm.
trust Mayfield as much as they trust Chubbs.
Yeah.
Maybe the Titans with Derrick Henry.
About
I,
Arizona, think Arizona might do that.
I personally
No.
no. I don't. Well, their coach, young coach. I think the Cardinals will go as far as their coach takes them, and I don't have a lot of respect for the coach in terms of being a high level coach. So I think they would have punted. He would have punted away in that situation. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, we don't know. Kyler Murray is a freak athlete for sure.
Hmm. He's young though. I don't think he has the experience that like Lamar Jackson has.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, all right. So those are kind of some of the games that I wanted to highlight in week two. Moving on to the Carolina versus the Texans game. Um, Houston, they weren't very good.
Yeah, Houston,
That's
we have a
not,
problem.
yeah, Houston, we have a problem. But missing their quarterback didn't help them either. So I know that Sam Darnold already praised him, but got to praise him again. He did well in that game. Um, McCaffrey being hurt didn't really help them at all. Hopefully, the rookie steps up and fills his shoes. Um, there's there's a lot to prove in that position because McCaffrey's a beast. So yeah, I was wondering if you guys had anything to say about that. Let's go with Finn.
The Carolina Panthers, as I said earlier, they win by great defense, and they're an athletic, fast, quick defense. They attack the ball, they tackle well. I definitely think that McCaffrey going down kind of hurt just the flow of the game. You kind of saw the Texans get a little spark when that happened, and I think it really shows just how important he is to the Carolina Panthers' success. They were able to weather the storm. They scored points in the second half and really kind of took control of the game, but it took a minute. Now, going to Houston's side, the Texans, Tyrod Taylor, gritty vet. He does well. He plays well. And everywhere he's been, he seems to do okay and then has bad luck and gets unseated by some rookie. Punctured lung by his own medical staff there in LA last year. So the Texans, I mean, we talking just about the game themselves. They certainly show that they're one of the worst rosters in the NFL, and they're one of the oldest rosters in the NFL. And that's not a very good combination, especially when you add in the fact that they don't have a ton of draft capital. They traded 2 first round picks for a left tackle, Laramie Tunsil, and they haven't been able to retool with some of these young guys. And so they are definitely in a very, very big rebuild project. Now it'll help once they are able to, if they're able to, trade Deshaun Watson, where, assuming his legal issues clear up or the NFL clears him, whatever comes first. But the Texans showed very much so that they're not a good team. And the Panthers, to be fair, they're 3-0, and I said it earlier, I'll say it again. A win in the NFL is hard to get. They have done it 3 weeks in a row. Kudos to them and congrats. Now, show that they're this good of a team. They haven't played anybody. They played the Jets. Great. They played the Saints without 7 coaches. Awesome. They played the Texans. Woohoo. Now show that you can go up toe to toe against the Bucks. Show that you can go toe to toe against a team like Dallas or Arizona, Seattle, any of these teams in the NFC that are going to be really competitive and really, really strong. The Rams, for instance, etc. Don't just beat up on bad teams, beat up on good teams. That's where the true test is going to be. And it'll be interesting. Adam Gase seems to have a really, really strong effect on quarterbacks. And that is once he leaves, they go on to stardom. Ryan Tannehill gets out of Adam Gase's as the coach, goes to Tennessee, becomes an all pro player. Does the same happen to Sam Darnold? I don't know. We'll find out.
Hey, don't try to spin this as Miami like being the the pit stop of the league there, man. Come on.
Oh, no. Adam Gase was with the Jets last year, man.
But I
Yeah,
would say, um, like I had Sam Darnold in one of my fantasy leagues last year, so I watched some of his Jets games and what he was doing. I felt he was better than a lot of people gave him credit for last year. Like he wasn't. I'm not saying he was great or like the top tier quarterback, but he was doing some good things last year on a team that really had nothing going for it. Um, and then I think he's starting to show a little bit here on the Panthers. But I think Finn's first point there is what I need to see probably from the Panthers is going to be you have not played anyone quite yet. Play, almost it'll be a sore spot. But kind of what Finn was talking about last week with his Dolphins, they need that proving ground for this for one of these weeks.
Ow.
But yeah, I think that's to me. I mean, they're doing good things. Hopefully, they can get McCaffrey back, and he's only out for a couple weeks or so. I know they're still kind of doing some checks there, but I'd like to see them do well. I think the Panthers have always been one of those teams that back in the Cam Newton days too that were like almost quite there, but not quite. Um, so it'd be good to see them and Sam Darnold start doing really well.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be a tough game next or this week. Yeah, against the Bucks, right? Oof.
I
It'd be
I know they
Oh,
don't play. Let's see here, real quick.
they play the
They don't.
Cowboys next week.
oh, they
Okay,
put.
that'll be
Okay,
a good matchup. That'll
yeah.
be a real test of how good their defense is.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you mentioned Bucks, so I was confused. um, all right. Well, going on to something that is unfortunate in the NFL, but it does happen: injuries. Um, I'll go on with myself for this one. One player that I hate to lose on the Eagles is Jordan Mailata, the Eagles offensive tackle, is out with an MCL sprain, which is going to hinder us against the Cowboys, definitely. That was a good pickup. He was a rugby player. He's a beast, and we're going to miss him. We're going to miss him for a couple weeks. Uh, Another guy I have is McCaffrey. He's going to be out for a few weeks. We already praised Carolina, but McCaffrey being out's going to hurt him, I feel like. And they're going to need him, and they're going to have him in all those tough games we're talking about. I don't think it's going to be good for him. And Mr. Glass, Carson Wentz, he can't stay healthy. There's just, not a lot of things I could say there other than the Eagles won't get their number one pick next year because he ain't playing 70% of games. So,
You
yeah.
must not have heard. You must not have heard the update on him.
Oh,
He is, yeah. So he is
no.
practicing yesterday, or today, I mean, and he
Oh,
is
that's good.
questionable to play and did look quite mobile. So there is a lot of hope that he is able to play this week and maybe miss this week, but definitely be back next week when they play the powerhouse. I believe the Miami Dolphins.
Well, I mean, we could hope he stays healthy. That's all I got on that.
I
I was wondering if you got any injuries sick
no, I was
that you
gonna
could note.
say with that update on Wentz, I saw a lot of memes about quarterbacks in wheelchairs. Is all I'm gonna. Um,
Yeah,
I'd say one of the unfortunate injuries to me, at least when I was looking at some of what went on last week, was Tyrod Taylor. I think having with Deshaun Watson out and having the opportunity to come in, and then he was doing really well. I think he was outpacing a lot of what everyone thought he was going to be able to do. I know he's kind of a veteran of the league, but seeing him come out and do well against the first couple teams they were playing, and then have an injury occurs, he's now on the IR, so it'll be multiple weeks if he even has a chance this year. But yeah, I'd say that's the one main injury that I felt bad for that injury. Felt bad for Tyrod. But yeah, Finn, I'll hand it off to you.
9 quarterbacks were hurt last week. 9. That's ridiculous. I mean, no wonder. Look, the NFL protects their quarterbacks at all costs, and we can get into roughing the passer penalties and some of the garbage that gets called. But at the end of the day, the NFL does not want to see their star players, their quarterbacks, get hurt. Quarterbacks sell tickets, quarterbacks make money. It's pretty simple as that. And the NFL protects them at all cost. And that to see guys, I mean, we're going to talk about it here in just a second, but seeing Tua get hurt, seeing Tyrod Taylor get hurt, Andy Dalton, Baker Mayfield, Big Ben, Carson Wentz, Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, Zach Wilson. Those are a lot of players hurt. Now, a lot of them are going to play next week. It's not, oh no, they're hurt for long term. But the fact that they ended up on the injury report or missed time during the game that they played, like Baker Mayfield, that's significant. And it's why the NFL protects their players as much as they can. Oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. Protects the quarterback as much as they possibly can. I mean, it's not good when you start seeing those type of guys go down. Yeah, linemen get hurt, running backs get hurt, linebackers, defensive ends, all those players get hurt. But the most impactful player on that football field is the quarterback, and the NFL just does not want to see them go down.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But unfortunately, it's week 2, and we're going to see a lot more injuries as the season goes on, and it's going to suck. Hopefully, it's none of us on our teams. That's all I can hope. Too bad, Tua. I forgot. Sorry, kid. um. Anyways, let's get into a little topic that I wanted to get into, which is bad officiating. There's been a lot of bad officiating in the NFL lately, and these last 2 weeks were terrible. There's tons of clips on YouTube, you name it, Facebook. It's all over the place, and it's only getting worse. I'm gonna send this one off to Finn because I bet he has a lot to say about bad officiating.
I want to ask a simple question, and I ask this question all the time. What is a catch? It is as simple. It should be a simple answer, right? The ball goes into the hands, you grab the ball, it's a catch, done. The NFL has made it the most convoluted thing they possibly can. If you catch the ball along the sideline and your toes drag in like this, it's a catch. But if you reverse it and you catch it like this and your heel goes down out of bounds, it's incomplete. What? Why? I don't get it. Roughing the passers, we've already kind of talked about it for a second. The NFL loves to throw flags, whether it's necessary or not. They're going to protect their quarterbacks, and there's been some plays that you hit a guy low, it's flagged. You hit a guy high, it's flagged. You can only hit him in the chest, but if you hit him too hard, it's a flag. If you hit him too soft, well, he breaks the tackle, and you still might get flagged. There was a play in the Dolphins game. The punter fumbled the ball and he picks it up as he's kind of diving to the ground. He has possession of it. He comes down, his hand hits the ground, the ball pops out because his hand hitting the ground. The ball pops out and it's recovered by the Bills. I looked at that play and said, "Well, he got the ball. It's a possession. He hits the ground. Ground can't cause a fumble. Simple." Nope. NFL keeps the call on the stand, confirms it that it was in fact a fumble. I mean, you saw the pictures you're talking about. What's a first down? Last year I believe it was a piece of paper to distinguish what was a first down. It's pretty ridiculous. I think in all of sports, not just the NFL, the leagues have officiating problems. The game is so fast. These athletes are so strong. It's 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 ridiculous, and it's getting harder and harder, especially when you start talking about the taunting penalties, especially when you start talking about the rule now for the linemen. I don't know how familiar you guys are with this, but linemen are only allowed to block on pass plays 1 yard past the line of scrimmage. Anything further than that, it's called illegal man downfield. In the college, you're allowed 3 yards. In the NFL, you're allowed one. Well, they have now called 14, 11 or 14, I forget which number it was, penalties for both the taunting and the illegal men downfield. Calls that, like last year, I think there were two. So the NFL seems to really focus in on one area and they throw a ton of flags early on in the season, and it impacts games and it costs guys jobs, and it gets harder and harder to defend the NFL when it comes to their poor officiating, and it's really bad when at the end of a game you're talking more about the black and white team and not about the teams that got the name on the back of the jerseys and the final scoreboard.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, dude. Those are bad plays. The taunting penalties are insane. I saw a Texans player spin the ball and get flagged for it as taunting. They do that all the time, and I don't understand why that's even a thing. And isn't it if they do that, if they get called for the same penalty, don't they get kicked from the game?
Yeah, so if you get called for taunting twice, it's unsportsmanlike conduct. If you get two unsportsmanlike conducts, you are ejected from the game. And you want to talk about subjective play calling or officiating? What is taunting? You had I mentioned right before we actually went live, we were kind of discussing just a few things, and I mentioned that you had a Bucks player return a touchdown, interception for a touchdown, and he walks backwards and he gets flagged for taunting. However, Lamar Jackson takes the ball on an end around and flips into the end zone, not taunting. Why was one called and the other not? To me, they're the same play. They're showboating. What's, what I guess really the question is why are they calling taunting? You have one owner say that they want to eliminate brawls and fights. Well, are we really gonna, we don't see that many fights in the NFL. Are we really gonna start a fight because a guy walked in the end zone backwards?
Hmm.
Really?
And I mean, it's a defensive player. I mean, if I was a defensive player, how many touchdowns do you have in your career, right? Like, I really don't care. It was Mike Edwards on the Bucks. He scored 2 touchdowns that game. So to me, I was like, dude, get at it, man. Like, you need there's not going to be many games like this for you. If I was his head coach, I would have like given him a bonus. You know, I wouldn't even care about the taunting penalty. I was like, do it again, man. If you did a third touchdown, did another taunting penalty. I don't care. Um, but yeah, I think it's a little. It, well, so there's 2 things I want to go into. I'll go into the first one because it's on topic of, I'm also a big soccer fan. I watch that quite a bit. I know you guys aren't as much, but my point here is that in soccer, it is fast paced. There's no timeouts. That's constant, right? And they found a way to have a video review in soccer. So it's like, at what point is the NFL? I understand we have challenges and things like that, but at what point are we going to have video review for ball spots or catches, something that is more consistent in what's going to be called, how it's going to be called, and not have to rely on 2 challenges per game, but actually rely on that being the correct call for the play that went on. Do you guys feel there's a way we can get to that, especially with football and how many timeouts and commercial breaks that it already has?
I mean, I personally think that they could, but they won't. And a big part of it is they don't want football to turn into baseball. The play of the game, they want to stay quick and up tempo. They don't want to take the breaks to review it like they do in college or whatnot. The other part of that is, I mean, you want to talk about a human error and the human side of officiating. Mike Evans, his first few years in the league, was called for offensive pass interference at a ridiculously high rate. Once a
Mm-hmm.
player enters the league and they kind of get this, uh, not persona, it's not the right word, but they kind of get this reputation of holding or like Sue, who is, a
Mm-hmm.
dirty player. They all of a sudden officials start looking out for that and start throwing the flag more and more. And if you are a player with elite status or a player who maybe is known for like a great circus catch or great blocking, whatever, you can kind of get away with more and more. And the ref will kind of, oh, well, that's just player X being player X. And there certainly is some favoritism when it comes, at least in my view as a fan, that there is a favoritism for certain players and certain teams over others. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the success of that individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a good point. And I think too, like you were mentioning, as you were talking, I think that's probably part of what they want in football is it not to be as maybe sterile as baseball, where it's like very much rule driven. I think they like the fact that there is some nuance to it, some incorrect calls that cause controversy, that allow for podcasts like this to talk about what was going on. Because if not, then it's just like, oh well, this team played the game perfectly, did everything right, and won. There's no controversy, there's no human factor to it, like you're saying.
I agree. The NFL definitely lives by the motto, good, all press is good press.
I don't think
Yeah,
we want
that's
to
nuts.
dive into that one.
No, probably not. We should probably get
That's
into
another
our
point.
next topic about we didn't quite finish week 2. We got to talk about how our teams did. And I'll go first on this one. I can't stress this enough. We had horrible play calls in that Eagles game. And I would be surprised if we went into Dallas and we won with the same calls or similar calls that were called in the 49ers game. Because Philly special. Philly special. You're at the goal line. You could just kick it in, get some points, but you Philly special. I don't understand. Like, where were your where were your brains at? It was it was nuts. 17 to I think 9, I think was the final score for that one. And there was times where we could have scored field goals to put some points on the board, but just didn't. And one of our defensive players couldn't keep his hands to himself. It was just a mess. I think that if we had our heads right, we probably could have won. Uh, it was a good defensive game. We kept them to one drive 3 times in a row. There was just not a lot we could do with play calls like that. Let's just cross our fingers and it doesn't happen when we face Dallas this week. So I was wondering, Finn, do you got anything about those Dolphins?
Well, before I talk about the Dolphins, I would like to mention that I do not think the 49ers are a very good team. And they kind of showed their colors there. But Philly definitely kept shooting themselves in the foot, and that's a sign of two teams that are definitely struggling. And so we'll see how the Eagles bounce back, and it'll be interesting. Also, I'm definitely rooting against the 49ers as the Dolphins own their pick.
Ah,
Talking about points, I'm not sure what that is. That's a subject matter that the Dolphins don't understand. They had everything go their way. That Buffalo gets beat by Pittsburgh, Miami beats New England. You get the home team, 1 o'clock, fans riled up. You have a chance to put your footprint on this division and say, this division goes through Miami. I said it on the podcast last week. This is a time for Miami to put up or shut up. It's time, why not now? Let's go. Let's do it. Let's show the NFL that they are as good of a team as they think they are. Well, they're not. Simple answer is they were not. Buffalo was the superior team. And Josh Allen did not play particularly well, and yet they still beat us 35 to nothing. That's not good enough. That's embarrassing. The offensive line was an absolute wreck. Our right tackle got Tua killed. He left the game with a broken rib. The backup quarterback barely made it out of that game alive. The running game was non-existent. They couldn't block to allow the receivers to get open downfield. The offense was abysmal. It was terrible. And because of that game, you now have the GM on the hot seat. You now are hearing the rumors of Deshaun Watson heating back up. And will Miami offer more than 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks for their guy? I look, I don't know what Miami can do at this point. This was a very, very bad showing. And every team goes through it. It's going to happen it's a 17-game season. You're bound to have one bad game. But to lose to a divisional rival at home and a team that beat you really bad in week 17 and beat you not and by pretty good week 2 or 3 last year, that's not good. And excuse me, Miami is really, really struggling. And I mean, I have all sorts of notes on this. And at the end of the day, they just weren't good. I have no other words to put it. Thankfully, it's a podcast on Friday and not Tuesday because my anger towards this team on Tuesday was still at a 10. I mean, I was absolutely livid.
I'm
you would have probably
feeling.
melted your webcam if you went on that stream.
I have to give Benny credit. Benny handled some yelling. I was pretty calm through about 5 minutes of the game. Benny at one point came in tail tucked between his legs and just kind of looked at me like, "You good?" And I was like, "No, I'm not good, but we'll be fine."
Oh,
Uh,
we saw the text, man. We saw what was going on.
definitely. So Falcons at the Bucks. Tell us how
Yeah.
that went down. Slade.
Yeah, so we talked, well, we were 13-point favorites, and, we were talking about if we were going to win and if we were going to cover the spread. It was iffy there going into halftime, I believe. It was pretty, I think we were up by 2 touchdowns at that point. So we were right at that mark of the spread. So I was kind of concerned because you expect the Bucks to come out and have a better start than that. But yeah, I think the second half really showed what the team was about. I do feel like there were some notes I had of the first half where I felt we were a little casual in how we were approaching the game, what we were doing. In the first quarter, Brady got strip sacked and lost the fumble there. So I mean, there are things like that that you just don't expect from a player of his caliber. That I felt we were uh, being Tom Brady. You got to feel that pressure and know that clock in your head. And I felt he just wasn't doing that. He wasn't paying attention. Wasn't into the game maybe as much as he should have. But despite that, he had 5 touchdowns on the day, spreading it around. Evans, Gronk, even Godwin had some. So I still think where we're probably lacking is going to be the running backs. We did not have what I would expect out of the running backs. There's even a play. Let me find where it was. Where yeah, it was in the fourth quarter. We essentially were running out the clock, um, and this was right before we had the pick six and some of the other things that kind of threw the game out of line. I felt this game was much closer than the scoreline stated. And in the fourth quarter, there was a play we had to get the first down and continue running out the clock. And our running back ran out of bounds 1 yard shy of the first down. He clearly could have pushed a little bit harder to get that first down. And it's like, just where's that intensity to win? Even in the fourth quarter, it's just not quite there. Um, so I think we're playing maybe things a little more casual than we should. But overall, I mean, you can't complain about the score line. Uh, I think the defense showed up. And of course, with the 2 touchdowns they scored, both from Mike Edwards. One thing I wanted to maybe get your guys' thoughts on. I saw this week. I haven't followed up on it. So, Finn, maybe you've heard some rumors, but the Bucks have shown interest in Richard Sherman. Imagine that defense with Richard Sherman. Because we all know as soon as Richard Sherman shows up, you never throw to that side of the field again. So I don't know. I don't even know what to think, but they'd be unstoppable if they ended up getting him on the team.
If they could get Richard Sherman 3 years ago, maybe. Keep in mind, Richard Sherman I believe he tore his Achilles tendon a couple years ago. That's why he's not with the 49ers. I know it was
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, then I think he went to the 49ers.
Correct.
He's injury prone, he's getting older. He's not as fast as he once was. Don't get me wrong, he brings a level of leadership and a level of professionalism that the Bucks don't really have in the secondary. They're a pretty young secondary.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not the player that I think that you would expect him to be. I also wonder, he's a loudmouth. He's a guy who loves to talk. You have a lot of big personalities on that team right now. You have Brady, you have Gronk, you have Antonio Brown, who's in COVID. You have on defense, you have Sue. That's a lot of personality, and I wonder how adding one more guy. Man, I'm so sorry. Oh, adding one more guy to the mix, how that translates to their on the field product. I do want to bring up something though, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the Eagles, G-Man, you guys played the Falcons week one. How many touchdowns did you guys allow? Zero. And Sick, can you remind me, wasn't there a bet something about a touchdown being allowed by the Falcons?
I don't recall. No.
Hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
I
They,
must have been mistaken then.
I'm pretty sure they got 3 touchdowns in that game against the Bucks. But I mean, I'm not saying that the Eagles are a better team, but hmm,
Yeah,
makes you
we
wonder.
I think we held them. We held them through the first quarter. Let me look at their first touchdown here. Yeah, so they had 0 points in the first quarter. So it was the second quarter. I think that was when they got no, the fumble was first quarter. But anyways, there was a couple plays where I was like, oh my, we're just handing them a touchdown here. And I knew with you guys that we had that bet. I was like, if we can make it through the first half potentially, that there we can maybe do it. But yeah, it didn't even last the first half. But I mean, we're the only team out of the three that won this week, so I'll leave it there.
You got me there. That was a rough week 2 for 2 out of the 3 of our teams. But
Just one loss.
brighter pastures of week 3. Let's go into week 3 and see what we can kick off here. I got Dallas versus the Eagles, and I believe that Dallas is going to smoke the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles, if they played like, I know what you're saying, okay? You're going to clip this moment. Don't you do it, okay? Look, I think that Dallas has played better. I Week 1 was good for the Eagles, but week 2 was a disaster. And unless they pick up the ball, I don't think that the Eagles are going to do very well against Dallas at Dallas. So, and that does hinder us a little bit. So, I had Dallas winning that like they should, and just wondering if you guys wanted to kick off your team's picks. Let's start here with Sick.
Yeah, yeah, I believe Eagles and Cowboys is gonna be Monday night games, so that'll be I'll definitely be checking that out. I think I think it will be tough for the Eagles, but um, I think there's a chance, man. I think they can pull it off.
I
Uh,
want to believe, but Jordan Mailata's out, man. Jordan Mailata's out, man.
I'll take your
I
word.
don't.
You know him better than I do. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Um, the Buccaneers this week we're playing the Rams. I was kind of surprised. I think from what I saw, we were just barely favorites in this game. But man, I don't know. I don't see it. I think this is like we were talking about. Maybe I think the Chargers last week that are a little overrated. I kind of felt the Rams are that way as well. I know they've played really well. They've had high scoring games, but I just don't see it against the Buccaneers. I think this will be one of their first challenges for the Buccaneers to get in there. So I think they had Dallas the first week, which I think Dallas came out swinging. The Bucks weren't as prepared. They placed Atlanta last week that maybe we should have taken that game a little more seriously. So I think the Rams will be that challenge this week. But I can't bet against the Buccaneers right now. I think they are still the favorites. I think they'll still win. But I think the Rams have been playing really well, and I just don't think they'll be of the caliber that the Buccaneers are at right now.
Yeah, that matchup will be the first real test for the Bucks. I mean, I know Dallas was a pretty good matchup. Dallas kind of exposed that defense and showed how you can kind of beat them.
Mm-hmm.
McVay with the Rams and Stafford with that arm, they can expose the Bucks secondary if they don't tighten up. So I understand why it's a 1 point. I believe the Rams are 1 point underdog at home.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to remember the home team is. I mean, the rule of thumb is that the home team is a 3 point favorite. So in Vegas eyes, it's really a 4 point uh like differential there, but it's
Mm-hmm.
really still that's not a lot. And I understand why the Rams are a pretty good team, and I think they can take advantage of the Bucks defense. The Dolphins, they take on Oakland in Oakland. The Raiders are 2-0. The Raiders do not blitz, and oh, by the way, they have one of the best pass rushers in the NFL by pressure rate so far this year. And Miami's offensive line, well, not good. The GM is on the hot seat because of his offensive line not being very good. You drafted a bunch of guys, they're bad. We have one of the worst left tackles in the league. Our right tackle's not much better. We benched our second year left guard for a rookie left guard. First year center, it's a mess. Oakland had a big win last week. I think Oakland comes in, home get with their crowd in Vegas, and yeah, they beat up on Miami. Miami's a 4 point underdog, and I just don't see it. I think Miami still's gonna have that Bills game in the back of their head, and with Tua being out, I just don't think they have enough offense. If they open up their playbook, they get Will Fuller back. If they open up their playbook and they can move on and show how strong mentally they are, they can beat this team. I think the Raiders are beatable. I had this game in my preseason record. I had them winning this game. I think it's very doable, but there's just so much going against them, and I just don't see how Miami can overcome the play without Tua, that offensive line. I just don't think they have the firepower to score points. Even if Oakland's defense isn't elite, it's good enough. And their right end is gonna just destroy Miami's line.
Yeah, that's going to be a rough one for Miami for sure. Um, let's get into lock of the weeks. What did you guys have for lock of the week? Let's start with Finn.
My lock of the week was cool. Um, there it is. Pittsburgh over Cincinnati. Pittsburgh's defense is legit. Cincinnati's offense is still a work in progress. And I think Pittsburgh -3, 3 point favorite is definitely going to stick it to Cincinnati. Uh, Big Ben's a little beat up, but that's all right. You don't need to be at full strength to beat Cincinnati by more than a field goal.
I could take that. What about you, Sick? What do you have for your lock of the week?
So mine, I'm gonna pick the Ravens. Take a page from Finn's book. They're playing Detroit this week, so they I believe they're 8 point, yeah, 7.5 point favorites. I think they'll definitely not have a problem with that. So yeah, that's gonna be my lock. I think what we saw against Kansas City, who we all know is an elite team, they not only were step for step with them, but they ended up winning that game. So I think, yeah, going against Detroit is going to be a cakewalk for them.
Yeah, for sure. I have for my lock of the week is Arizona over Jacksonville. I think that, Jacksonville have yet to win a game, and I don't think they're going to win it here with Arizona. And the godlike talents of Kyler Murray coming out with all his yards and yeah, so even with DeAndre Hopkins being hurt, I'm pretty sure in Arizona, I don't think that they're gonna beat, or Jacksonville is gonna beat Arizona. So that's my lock of the week. What about
Yeah, but
upsets?
sorry,
Oh,
not to just
no,
to
yeah.
kind of pop in real quick. DeAndre Hopkins is a game time decision, and Jacksonville is a 7.5 point underdog. That's a lot of points to cover with the fact that, Arizona might be missing maybe the best wide receiver in all of football. I'm not saying that that's a dumb pick by any means. I just really wanted to, emphasize that Hopkins is a game time decision. That's a 7.5 points. That's a pretty big spread.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I have been wrong before, obviously, but I feel pretty confident about that one. Um, for upsets of the week, I have the Vikings over Seattle.
Ooh.
I think that, yeah, it's it's a weird one. I'm not gonna lie. Seattle struggled really hard against the run last week, and Dalvin Cook is a beast, and I don't think they're gonna stop him. Um, Russell Wilson's a good QB, but he's no Kyler Murray. So, you know, I was wondering what you had for your lock of the week, Finn. Or
My
not lock of
lock
the
of
week.
Sorry,
Oh,
you're right. My upset
upset.
of the week, there you go, is the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to pick Packers anytime they're an underdog. The Green Bay Packers going against the 49ers. The 49ers are not that good of a team. They're 2-0. A win is a win. They're hard to come by in the NFL. I feel like I've said this before, but Green Bay is a different monster. And when they're on, they're on. And sorry, 49ers fans, but you guys are getting your first loss, and that draft pick just got better for Miami. Also, you love injured players this week, man. Dalvin Cook is questionable to play on Sunday. So, I don't know what that means for his availability, how effective or efficient he's going to be, but just know, man, you seem to love to pick
No
these weeks based
way.
off of injuries.
No way. Really? Really? Ah, well, I mean, fingers crossed. I didn't do enough research, I guess. Re Here's the Vikings winning.
Don't let him sway you, man. Stick to your teams.
Look, I've been sticking to my teams, and how has that worked out for me in the past? Like,
All right, fair enough. So yeah, my upset this week is going to be the Jets over the Broncos. No, I'm just kidding. That's
Oh
I
not.
would
my
have
goodness, I was gonna
brave,
say.
brave man, brave man, brave man.
Um, no, I actually picked the same game you did, Finn. I think the Packers being the underdogs. I don't even. I feel that should be almost like you're saying. It has. It seems like 3 points to the home team, so that seems to be that differential. Just I really think that's an evenly matched game. But from what we saw in the Packers last week, I could definitely see them having another breakout game and just steamrolling the 49ers.
I like that pick, man. That's a really, really strong upset pick. I'm gonna.
You know what? If I would have known that they were underdogs and I played that close of attention, we all might have had the same picks. But I didn't see that, and I just assumed that Green Bay was the favorite because
You know
it's
what they
Green
say about
Bay.
assumptions.
Yes, yes, I do. That's not that kind of podcast. But um, I think that makes Sick ahead, doesn't it? Is
Well,
he?
we do need to discuss last week's picks. We talked about our teams. I know that I said that the Dolphins were going to beat the Bills. It was a close game. I was only 36 points off. You had picked the Eagles to beat the 49ers, as we discussed, and you were slightly off. And Sick, once again, in that category, takes home the W. But you did a little trash talk, Sick, and you mentioned that you were
That's
going
not.
to be a sweep once again. And can you just remind me kind of what
Hey,
your picks
hey,
were?
hey, man. Um, yeah. So with let's take a look at this, right? The upset, Cincinnati and Chicago is what I picked. They only lost by a field goal, and honestly, the Bears' defense is what carried them through that game. So I mean, is that really a loss? I don't think it's really a loss. It just
I believe
happened.
it counts as an
It
L in the
it
book.
it
Kind of
it,
kind of looks like
it
an L,
counts. It counts as
smells
one,
like an
but
L,
it's
must
not
be an L.
truly, And even
Kind of,
Cleveland over Texans, they still won. They just didn't. I happened to pick the highest spread out of the entire week, and they just. I think they only fell 1 point short of it or something. So I mean, come on.
hey, you picked the spread, you picked the terrible Texans team, and they came out and did a little better than you expected. So,
Hey,
you
did
know.
did either of your locks even win last week? Let alone cover the spread.
So
By my
Arizona, who played against the Vikings, managed to win the game. They just didn't cover. I mean, they won by 1 point, not the 3.5 necessary. But look, the big thing was my Dallas pick. The Dallas fan here who also picked them said that they were going to go to LA and beat up Justin Herbert, and sure enough, Dallas did just that. So we are on the books, but yes, you for the year standing so far, I believe are 3-2, whereas I am 2-4, and G-Man, well, you can talk as well, but I believe you are 2-4 in the year as well.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, Seahawks over Titans. I had every intention of throwing all my faith at Seattle, but somehow not the Texans, the Titans. Why did I say Texans?
I think you said
Titans.
Titans.
Did I?
I think so.
Okay. Regardless, the Titans had no reason doing as good as they did last week.
Yeah, I agree.
2 words. Derrick Henry.
Pretty much.
That guy is a train, and it's hard to stop a moving train.
I want to say last week he had 200. Oh man, I don't want to misquote. I'm not even going to say it. Never mind. I had the stat written down somewhere, and it's on one of these pieces of paper. I don't know.
But I
Who does
mean,
paper anymore?
even the Dallas game, they did not beat up on the Chargers. They had a 56-yard field goal with no time on the clock, with a poorly managed final drive to mention. So I mean, you barely. It should have, that was like a 2-point switch, because I ended up with Cleveland that just barely lost, didn't cover the spread, they didn't lose, and Dallas just barely won. So you guys can have it for this week, and we'll see what happens with our picks moving forward.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
W is a W in my book, but yeah, no. So that kind of wraps it up, unless we had anything else pressing that we needed to discuss.
I mean, I have a final thought I'd like to say, because I don't think I've
Sure.
said it at all. To kind of go off that whole Dallas thing, a win is a win, and it's hard to do in the NFL.
And apparently,
Couldn't
it's
agree
hard
more.
to do for Dallas. Yeah.
I'm conflicted.
Until they face the Eagles.
The Eagles fan in me says Dallas sucks, always lose, Dallas sucks. But the podcast G-Man says, damn, Dallas is okay. But, well, you can't win them all. Any final thoughts from you, Sig?
I think we hit on everything. But yeah, it was fun talking this week. I look forward to seeing you guys again next week.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, that kind of wraps it up here with the Fumbling Gurus podcast. Check us out next week on Thursday, 5:30, Best Coast time.
Fridays at 8:30 Eastern.
Fridays, not Thursdays. Yeah, sorry, butchered. All right.
All right, see you guys.
See you, everybody.